Who would know?
During a live broadcast, Sophie Cunningham called out the Fever president with complete honesty and no hesitation. What she said created a much bigger impact than anyone expected, and the organization is already feeling the fallout behind the scenes. If you're enjoying this content, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Surprisingly, more than 83% of the people watching still haven't subscribed. It costs nothing, takes only a moment, and it helps support the channel more than you might think. So, have you subscribed yet? If you have, thank you for the incredible support. We truly appreciate it. Now, let's get back to the story.
Oh, this game is boring. It's not good basketball. Then all of a sudden, everything got spicy. Everything got negative. We need to talk about it. You guys, this is my live reaction.
But this is far more than a single viral moment. It has turned into a complete reckoning, fueled by controversial silence, mounting questions, and an unexpected cultural firestorm. I've got the evidence, the fallout, and every uncomfortable detail that has brought the situation to this point.
When people tried at Iowa,
What was supposed to be a routine post-game interview quickly turned into something much bigger. No controversy, no headlines, just another player answering questions and wrapping up the night. Then, in less than 15 seconds, Sophie Cunningham
If you do not think
changed the
Caitlin
entire
Clark is the
conversation.
league's face,
Her statement
you are
about
stupid.
Caitlin Clark
It was
being
more
the
than a
face of the
single-line
league landed with
quotation.
incredible force. It was more than a quote people could repeat online. It felt like a direct challenge. There was no careful wording, no attempt to soften the message, just a blunt declaration that immediately grabbed attention. Suddenly, the discussion was no longer only about basketball. Tensions that had been building across the league were pushed into the spotlight. To many fans, it sounded like a response to critics who had dismissed Clark's impact from the beginning. Others saw it as a shot at executives who preferred polished public relations statements over difficult conversations. In a league already facing intense scrutiny, the moment felt like another warning sign that deeper issues were impossible to ignore. Within minutes, social media exploded. TikTok was flooded with dramatic edits and reaction videos. Threads across Twitter spread rapidly as fans debated every word. Instagram filled with memes, reels, and tributes celebrating Cunningham's willingness to speak her mind. Some labeled her the enforcer, others called her Clark's protector, and many praised her for saying what they believed others would not. Yet the most important part of the story received far less attention. It wasn't just the quote itself, it was the feeling behind it. To many viewers, it sounded like someone who was tired of scripted answers, forced smiles, and surface-level respect. Cunningham wasn't simply defending Clark. She appeared willing to stand beside her despite the backlash that might follow. Meanwhile, Indiana's leadership remained noticeably quiet. As Cunningham's comments spread across the internet, the organization found itself facing growing questions and mounting pressure. What seemed like a simple interview had suddenly become a major public relations challenge, and there was no clear roadmap for what came next. Before we continue, make sure to hit the like button if Sophie's comments caught your attention. The more people discuss these moments, the harder they become to ignore. Join the conversation and let your voice be heard.
her face.
You know the moment. Everyone does. Indiana versus Connecticut. Caitlin Clark takes another hard hit, this time involving J.C. Sheldon. It wasn't the first incident, and many believed it wouldn't be the last. But what happened next changed everything. Sophie Cunningham didn't wait for a whistle or look for permission. She stepped in immediately. She confronted Sheldon and sent a message that echoed far beyond the court. It wasn't just a physical reaction, it was a statement. Fans froze, commentators scrambled for words, and the entire arena felt the tension. The officials handed Sophie a fine, but that only fueled the conversation. Reports claimed she brushed it off as if standing up for a teammate was worth every dollar. Within minutes, the clip exploded across social media. Slow-motion replays flooded timelines before the game had even fully ended. Everywhere, fans repeated the same theme: protect the star. Yet the viral highlight didn't tell the whole story. The deeper moment came afterward. In the locker room, Caitlin reportedly turned to Sophie and simply said, "Finally." Not "thank you," not "wow," just "finally." To many, that single word reflected months of frustration, physical play, and unanswered criticism. Sophie's response was just as simple. She looked at her teammate, and made it clear she had her back. There were no cameras, no headlines, and no carefully crafted statements, just a genuine moment between two players. By then, the story had become about more than basketball. Clark was no longer viewed as just another player dealing with tough competition. She had become a symbol in a much larger conversation. And Sophie was no longer seen as only a teammate. She became a rallying point for fans and supporters alike. That one act drew a clear line and forced people to choose where they stood. After a moment like that, returning to normal felt impossible. The atmosphere had changed, the sides had been drawn, and the message was impossible to miss. Stand together or stand aside.
People are doing this. Two Caitlin Clark teammates weren't jumping in there. They bring in Sophie Cunningham. I had no idea. Sophie Cunningham was a black belt at the age of 6.
Yeah.
Yep.
Boom!
Wow.
JC Sheldon, that's cute. You want to poke her in the eye, then push her into a boom, Mayberry thing? Go ahead. I'll take a take foul, and you'll eat the deck a little bit here. And then we'll get out. I love it. I know people aren't going to like this. I like the Connecticut team doing what they did.
Sure.
Just go tomorrow. You're on the Las Vegas Strip. What can the Las Vegas expect from Sophie?
Oh, you know what? I'm just gonna be me. I don't go in there trying to predetermine anything. I'm dialed in. I need to focus on hitting my shots, making sure I'm executing the schemes right. I'm not focused on the extracurricular activities. And you know what? During that, it was just part of the game. I think the refs had a lot to do with that. It was a build-up for a couple of years now of them just not protecting, the star player of the WNBA. And so at the end of the day, I'm going to protect my teammates. That's what I do. And I'm a team player.
Behind the scenes, tensions have been building for a long time. Sophie Cunningham's reaction to JC Sheldon didn't come out of nowhere. From her perspective, she had watched the same patterns play out for months. It wasn't paranoia. It was the recognition of repeated moments that continued to fuel debate around Caitlin Clark's treatment. Many fans pointed to hard fouls, extra contact after whistles, sideline reactions, and comments that seemed to question whether Clark truly belonged at the highest level. Sophie appeared to notice it all. While others stayed quiet or dismissed the concerns, she was keeping track of every incident. Then came another physical game, one that many supporters felt crossed the line. At that point, the pressure that had been building for months finally boiled over. What followed didn't look like a random outburst to those who supported her. They saw it as a response to a situation that had been escalating for a long time. When the footage spread and conversations moved back to the Fever locker room, the atmosphere felt different. The days of pretending nothing was happening seemed to be ending. Players who had remained silent were suddenly forced to confront the growing controversy. Neutrality became harder to maintain as the debate intensified across the league and among fans. At the same time, critics questioned where leadership stood during these moments. Supporters argued that public statements were scarce and meaningful action seemed absent when tensions were at their highest. While executives stayed largely out of the spotlight, Sophie was the one taking center stage and becoming the face of the response. Her willingness to act earned praise from many teammates and fans who believed someone needed to step forward. Meanwhile, the league continued benefiting from the attention surrounding Caitlin Clark. Television ratings climbed, merchandise sales surged, and media coverage reached new heights. Yet many supporters felt there was a contradiction between celebrating Clark's popularity and addressing concerns about how she was treated on the court. Sophie openly criticized what she viewed as inconsistent officiating and questioned why stronger action was not being taken. She suggested that if the situations were reversed, consequences might have been much harsher. Then she broadened her criticism beyond the officials and toward league leadership itself. Her argument was simple. If Clark's impact was helping drive unprecedented attention to the sport, then the people benefiting from that success should be willing to stand behind her when controversy emerged. Those comments spread rapidly online and sparked intense debate across social media. Fans created shirts, signs appeared in arenas, and clips of her remarks circulated everywhere. What sounded like an interview to some felt like a rallying cry to others. Cunningham was no longer being discussed as just another player. She had become one of the most outspoken voices in the conversation. At the same time, the silence from leadership drew even more scrutiny. With few public responses and little visible engagement, critics argued that the league was allowing frustration to grow unchecked. Sophie's comments resonated because they went beyond individual calls or single games. They challenged a broader system and raised difficult questions about accountability, player protection, and the future direction of the league. Her message ultimately forced a debate that could no longer be ignored. If star players are central to the league's growth, what responsibility does the league have to protect and support them when the spotlight becomes most intense?
You guys, you can hear it in the video right here. The Indiana Fever fans were chanting, "Sophie, Sophie." Sophie's jersey is gonna sell out tonight. She's gonna be in the All-Star game tonight just from this one play because she was standing on business. It wasn't a dirty play. It was an intentional foul and it was meant to send a message. And how egregious the referees were and how they were not protecting players, and they especially weren't protecting the #1 player in this league, the biggest draw in this league, which is...
The fans had seen enough. After watching every shove, every controversial call, and every moment of silence from the league, patience was running thin. Sophie Cunningham may have lit the spark, but the fan base provided the fuel. These weren't just traditional basketball fans watching from a distance. They were Clark supporters, YouTube commentators, TikTok creators, and social media users who believed they were witnessing unfair treatment while the league continued to benefit from the attention surrounding its biggest star. Suddenly, the movement had a face. Sophie Cunningham became the enforcer, the outspoken voice, and the player who refused to wait for approval before speaking her mind. TikTok edits spread everywhere. Slow-motion clips of Clark taking hard hits were paired with dramatic music and captions claiming she was being targeted while others called it normal defense. One viral post even read, "I've never watched a WNBA game before, but I'd show up to support Sophie." Whether exaggerated or not, the sentiment reflected the intensity of the reaction. Within days, interest around Cunningham surged. Her following grew rapidly. Jerseys became harder to find, and fans flooded social media with messages of support. Parents shared emotional posts, young players copied her intensity during practice, and countless supporters embraced her as a symbol of standing up for teammates. It didn't feel like a marketing campaign. To many, it felt like something genuine had shifted. Meanwhile, critics argued that the league's response remained predictable. Official statements focused on professionalism, conduct, and respect for opponents. To frustrated fans, those messages sounded corporate and detached from the emotions driving the debate. By then, the controversy was no longer just about officiating or individual plays. It had become a larger conversation about trust, loyalty, and whether the league truly valued the players and supporters helping fuel its growth. Sophie wasn't finished adding to that discussion. Her message resonated with fans who believed that failing to support key players risked alienating the very people investing their time, money, and passion into the sport. That idea quickly spread online, appearing in posts, videos, signs, and conversations across the basketball world. Supporters argued that they were deeply invested in the future of the league and wanted their concerns to be heard. As emotions continued to rise, one question remained at the center of the debate. Who else might be willing to challenge the system publicly? Let us know in the comments which WNBA player you think could be the next outspoken voice. Because if the reaction so far is any indication, this conversation is only getting started.
Indiana Fever fans, because you guys came in so strong and were doing exactly what fans need to do. They were booing these players every time they touched the ball. They were getting active. They were getting after it. I'm surprised the WNBA hasn't launched an investigation yet, honestly. But the Connecticut Sun started to get embarrassed, and that is not a good place to be. That's actually a dangerous place to be when you're on the court. And so I was worried that things are going to get even more physical, because when a team feels like they have nothing to lose, sometimes they start to get dirty, they start to get extra physical. And this is not only something that happened.
This was no longer just about Caitlin Clark. Sophie Cunningham had sparked something much bigger. The moment she stepped up, the conversation expanded beyond a single player because many fans believe she was shining a light on deeper issues within the league. To her supporters, she wasn't simply defending Clark. She was challenging a culture that had become increasingly difficult to ignore. A league that had long searched for greater attention suddenly found itself at the center of the spotlight, only to face intense debate once fans began demanding answers and change. Many supporters argued that Sophie exposed frustrations that had been building for years, including resentment, jealousy, and gatekeeping that some believed existed beneath the surface. What some dismissed as normal competitive behavior, others viewed as something far more damaging. The criticism became impossible to avoid. Fans pointed out that Clark had helped drive ratings, fill arenas, attract new audiences, and generate unprecedented interest in the sport. In their view, those achievements should have been celebrated rather than met with constant resistance. Instead of uniting around the league's growth, they felt certain voices were creating unnecessary division. That led to one of Sophie's most discussed messages. If this level of attention and success is what everyone wanted, why should anyone be upset now that it has finally arrived? The statement resonated because it challenged assumptions that many people were afraid to confront publicly. It wasn't just a memorable quote. It became a question that echoed throughout the basketball world. For years, the culture had been built around perseverance, sacrifice, and survival. But when a new era of visibility and opportunity arrived, many felt the system struggled to adapt. As debate intensified, fans looked for someone willing to address those concerns directly. Whether she intended to or not, Sophie became one of the loudest voices in that conversation. She wasn't trying to position herself as a hero, but when others remained silent, many supporters saw her as a symbol of resistance and change. While league officials and executives focused on public messaging, Sophie continued speaking in a way that felt direct, emotional, and unfiltered. She brought passion, conviction, and a willingness to challenge uncomfortable topics. To her supporters, the message was clear: evolve with the moment or risk being left behind by it. Caitlin Clark may have brought unprecedented attention to the league, but Sophie Cunningham added another element entirely: the conflict, debate, and difficult questions that followed. And if recent events have proven anything, it's that this story is far from finished. Share your thoughts in the comments, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next chapter. We'll see you in the next video.